Welcome to the Governing Your Resources with Azure AD Identity Governance. And thanks for walking all the way here, last session of the day, so thanks for coming. My name is Joseph Dadzi. I'm a program manager in the Azure AD engineering team. I've been working on enterprise software since the mid-90s, NT4, PDC, member servers, all that good stuff. And I'm sure most of you have used products that have been responsible for like group policy and stuff in your careers. The past 3 years, I've been working on identity governance with the sole purpose of how do we bring governance capabilities into Azure Active Directory. So I'm excited to be here today to start talking about identity governance and Azure Active Directory. My team is also responsible for products like Azure AD, Privileged Identity Management, Terms of Use, Access Reviews, and some of the new capabilities that you'll be seeing today. So excited to be here. With me today is my colleague, Mark.
Hello, I'm Mark Wall. So I'm also a principal program manager in the Azure Active Directory engineering team. I've been doing identity management for about 25 years, but I should be done really soon. Most of the time that Joe was working on NT and PDCs, I was the competitor. So I worked on Sun Directory services until Oracle happened. But then the last 10 years, I've been working at Microsoft, mostly on MIM and its many names. And we're still working on MIM, so don't worry about that. And so now I'm working with Joe on bringing some of our identity governance features to Azure AD.
Okay. So this is the first time we're actually talking about identity governance in Azure AD, right? Last year, we had a session talking about, access reviews, terms of use, but we didn't feel like we had enough capabilities to talk about the broader governance story. And the interesting thing is, once we started talking about those features, customers like yourself told us we need more capabilities in Azure AD, right? You told us that, hey, access review is okay, but we need more. What are you going to do? So we announced some partnerships last year to help you bridge the gap, and now we've added some more capabilities. So today, we are first going to walk through the background of identity governance, how we think about it. Then we'll walk through some of the capabilities that we are adding to Azure Active Directory, how it integrates with some of the new features or existing features that are in Azure Active Directory. And then we'll use a lot of demonstrations to show you how these features may work. And then we'll have some action items for you guys at the end. Sounds good? Who understands what this picture means? What does this picture tell you when you look at this picture? IoT, no walls, right? It's a mess. I like that answer, right? The key thing that increasingly we are seeing in IT, and you guys face this every day, is that we are living in a super, super connected world, right? You have employees working maybe in your headquarters, but they could be working in a branch office. They could be working with partners. They could be working at Starbucks. They could be working from home. And users or employees always want to use whatever they're comfortable with to get their work done. You may have some policies to say, particular work, do it on your Windows devices. But users who use whatever, the latest iPhone came out, I'm sure they all went and got it and they want to use it, right? Think of the scenario where your marketing department is working with an advertising firm to do a marketing campaign, right? You cannot control what a marketing firm what devices they use. They're going to bring in their Macs, they're going to bring their iPad Pros, and the question to IT, how do you provision access? How do you give those users access? How do you make them productive? How do you give them access to resources in your organization, right? So we believe to be able to enable this connectivity or this collaboration, identity is the only thing that you have in common that you can rely on, that you can use to verify people's identities. You can use it to know which devices they are on. You can do multi-factor authentication, and all those capabilities to be able to connect these users wherever they are to whatever resources in your organization. And when they no longer need the access, you can then go revoke the access. That is the key thing that when we talk about identity as a control plane or identity-driven security, that's the key thing, right? With that, the question then becomes, okay, all right, I have identity. You've been talking about Azure Active Directory and identity for a while. What does that mean? What can I do with that, right? I can do conditional access. I can give people access to resources, right? You see this thing saying security. Today you have tools to give the right people access to the right resources. So you may feel, I can do this today, I'm secure, right? Then the business units come and they talk about productivity. We want to collaborate, we want to share documents with people all over the world. We want to speed things up. IT, you guys are slow, the SLAs are too long. How do we enable productivity? But you cannot get away with knowing who has access to what resources, or how do you govern this new capability or this new world, right? The past few years, I've been talking to customers like yourself all over the world. And the constant thing that comes up is, in this new world, who has access to what resources? Usually you can do a good job telling that back because you provision their access. But then in the example that I talked about where your marketing department is working with an advertising firm, how do you know who should have access to those resources? Even the marketing director may not necessarily know who should have access. All they know is they signed a contract with this vendor firm. They're going to bring their designers, their artists in, and somehow IT needs to be able to provision access, right? So how do you solve that problem? The other thing that happens is often, at least in the AD world, you would go create an account for these users in your directory, give them access, and guess what happens? The contract ends, these people have access to all sorts of things. You have these zombie accounts that can wake up someday and start, squirreling around your organization, right? So how do you monitor that access? How do you figure out what is happening with that access for the people that you've provisioned? That's a question that you kept raising, that we need to provide you tools to help you do that. And then, how do you scale? It's not like the IT budgets are increasing, right? Either they are flat or, slight increase, right? So how do you scale with IT, with all this collaboration? We want to share with OneDrive. We want to share SharePoint. We want to enable teams. How do you have processes in place or tools that allow you to scale and have these repeatable processes that make sure that the right people have the access to the resources, they are productive, but you are not compromising the security in your organization? And lastly, this is a fun one. How many of you do audits every year? Who has never had a finding in an audit? Right? You always have findings. Those findings never go away, right? So the question is, how do you go meet those compliance needs or the audit requirements? When the auditor comes in and asks you, how did that user get access to that particular application? Why is that? They're no longer in the company. Why do they have access? How do you answer those questions, right? So whatever we provide in identity governance, we need to give you the tools, the reports, and the auditing to make sure that, A, you can pass those findings, or you have the proof points to get the auditors off your back, right? So that's why we need identity governance. So in Azure Active Directory, our belief is that we need to provide you capability to help you balance that security and productivity, but also make sure from a compliance perspective, you are aligned with whatever the business policies or the compliance rules for your organization are, okay? So identity governance is what we call the right controls that ensure secure productivity. You can have security, you can have productivity, but having a governance layer based on identity helps you round out and make sure the right things are happening. You have the visibility, you have the processes, you have the proof points to auditors, etc. And so in the next few slides, we're going to talk about how we do it in Azure Active Directory. We'll talk first about what the business problems are, and then go to how Azure Active Directory solves it with existing capabilities, talk about some of the new capabilities. So governance, is it just identity lifecycle? Yeah? It's one. Identity lifecycle is one piece of the puzzle. It's not the only thing. Obviously, for your employees, most cases, they are coming through your HR feed, right? You bring them in, maybe use some dynamic groups to provision them into SaaS applications or whatever groups you want them to. But it's not enough, right? Governance is not just having a good identity lifecycle process in place. You also need to think about access rights. After they are onboarded, the next role that the users get in, how do they get access to additional resources that they need? How do you enforce that access, right? So you need to think about the access right, not just from birthright, but from an ongoing basis. The last thing that often when we talk about governance, we don't really we think about it as a separate category, which is privileged access. How do you manage or govern the rights that all these privileged users in the organization have? How do you make sure that the right people have these admin rights? How do you reduce the risk of those admins? And how do you make sure all of these are working together to make sure that you have the right controls for the right resources, for your employees, for guests or partners, for your admins? You need to think of governance as not just a single point-in-time task that you do. It's an integrated process that you need to build into whatever you do with your IAM infrastructure, your access management infrastructure. You need to enable all these things together to achieve the business outcome of secure productivity. Does that make sense? All right. So let's dig a little bit into employees. I referenced this earlier. Lifecycle management is the foundational problem, right, that we talk about. Often the question is, how do I do the joiner process? They come from an HR. Maybe you are a global company. You have users in different parts of the world. You may have different HR systems. How do you provision all these users into the applications that they need in your organizations, right? When the access changes, how do you manage that, right? So lifecycle management is a fundamental problem that you need to solve to have the basis for any solid or good identity governance capabilities. Then you need to think about the processes. In your small branch office, in some satellite office, maybe you don't need an HR system there, maybe a manual process. Who's responsible for that provisioning? Is it a manager that onboards employees into the organization or something else? Whereas if you have a large site, maybe you're using an HR system like Workday or something else to bring users in, right? And how do you make sure this is effectively working over time? So those are the key problems and challenges that we've heard from you guys about how to manage lifecycle. So in Azure AD, I'm sure you guys have seen all these pictures. The first thing is getting users into Active Directory, right? You get a user in Active Directory, you can use Azure Active Directory Connect to synchronize those users to Azure AD. You can then figure out if you have maybe these different HR systems. If you're a MEM customer, you can use MEM to bring in from all these different on-premises systems into Active Directory and use Azure Active Directory to synchronize those users up to the cloud. You can now, how many of you are using Workday? A few people, right? We're increasingly hearing that customers like yourself want to do cloud to cloud, those of you moving to Workday. So we are enabling the ability to bring users from Workday in the cloud directly into Azure Active Directory. Then you can then provision their access and their rights to all the third-party SaaS applications that are integrated Azure AD or any applications out that you need them to get into, right? So that's the basic platform. But that's not enough, right? I gave the example of that small business office. How do you do self-service? Those are additional things we are thinking about. How do you self-service bring employees in or even bring some of your vendors into the organization so you allow IT to scale and IT is no longer the bottleneck? How do you find analytics about who is coming into the directory, how are they coming, who is removing them, etc.? And this is not only for the one-time thing. When you think of the life cycle, you need to think about the other use cases, mergers and acquisitions, right? When you merge in another company, how do all those employees come in? Maybe they want to stay in their different tenants. Maybe they want to act differently, but you need to enable collaboration across them. How do you enable that? Those are all the things that you need to think about, and in Azure Active Directory, we're investing in tools to enable you to bridge that. So that's the employees. Increasingly, we've been hearing a lot about guests. And so I'd like Mark to actually talk a little bit about the guest lifecycle and the challenges that we see with the cloud.
Thanks, Joe. So we've seen for a long time organizations have kind of gotten their employee data from HR into the directory, into the applications, kind of under control. But organizations we've seen are still struggling with the problem of cross-company, cross-tenant collaboration. We've added features to Azure Active Directory, like the B2B feature a couple years ago, that made cross-organization collaboration far easier than it ever was. Because I remember the days when you tried to set up ADFS and try to go across boundaries, and it was a complete nightmare. Now the process is a lot easier. Yet when we talk to organizations, they say, we understand the technology is there, we know how to invite the user, but we're concerned. How do we make sure that the process is efficient so that people can get in and get access they need, but doesn't create a problem for the rest of our organization? So one of the things that we've been talking to a number of customers ever since B2B started to become part of the Azure AD story is what should be the kind of processes around how B2B is used for cross-organization collaboration. There's the scenarios today in things like SharePoint Online for one-on-one document sharing. Oh, I want to send you this cool cat video. I can share it with you. That was fun. But there's also other scenarios that organizations struggle with. What about contractors? If we have contractors and they're coming in and they're working with one part of the organization for a while, and then they're working with another part of the organization for a while, like when does their account go away again? I lost track which part of the company they're working with. And maybe it's not one-on-one. Maybe rather than saying, well, I want to send a cat video to one person, I'm working with an outside firm. Maybe I have an outside auditor firm coming and looking at my financials. I probably don't know every single person at that firm who needs access to our data. Maybe I have a contact or 2 or 3 contacts, but there might be other junior people on their firm who need to come in and get access to our financials, get access to our applications data, and that's going to be a challenge. Even if I manage to get a list, okay, here are the 5 people, we know it's not going to be scalable. We have companies that we're talking with that say, I want to bring over 5 people, I want to bring over 50,000 people. I want to have a very dense network of organizations with people working together driven by the business, with IT kind of stepping out of the way of the process. Now, of course, this is a challenge. As the number of people who are coming in from outside the organization grows, you have a challenge around visibility. There's probably no one person you can point to in your company, unless you're a 5-person consulting firm, and say, what's every company that we do business with? And who do we work with over there? And we see organizations that have already been using B2B are asking questions like, when we turned on SharePoint Online, we started getting people coming into our tenant. Maybe they were just there viewing a cat video, but they're still there. And we know the cat videos only lasted about 2 minutes long, so they can't still be watching it. What are they doing there? How long do they need to stay there for? What kind of things do they have access to today? How do we start to put some controls over this? This is particularly important to our customers that are in regulated industries, because I'm sure you've done a lot of training courses for your own employees. Here's the latest regulation that you have to go pass your training in order to make sure you're clear on whether it's privacy or financial control, what have you. But your vendors, yes, there's probably some tick box legalese in the contract, but do they know about this? Do they know what they're seeing when they go into applications that have your customer data, your financial data? Do they know the handling requirements for that? So these are the kind of challenges that we see organizations are increasingly struggling with in order to be able to be effective at using these kind of cross-org collaboration features at scale. So first, let's talk about some of the things that we're doing in order to make B2B collaboration easier, as well as then more secure and more governed. The first is we're adding new forms of B2B relationships. I'm going to go very briefly over this because we have another session on Friday that's going to go a lot deeper into how this works. Elizabeth Olsen is going to do this on Friday. So first we have our existing Azure AD to Azure AD B2B. Who's tried this out? Who's invited someone? A few of you? Okay, go invite someone after this session. Pick a random person. You can invite me. I don't mind. I'd like to see what's in your tenant. Now, in addition to organization to organization, we're also going to be introducing other forms of B2B. Because unfortunately, there are some people out there who just haven't gotten on board with Azure AD yet. But that's okay. You still need to work with them, so we're going to make sure that they're able to come in and get access to your applications, be able to work with your employees, even if they're using some other identity provider. Maybe they've got ADFS and just love ADFS so much, they're never going to give it up. That's okay. We'll still work with them. And of course, there's going to be lots of situations where the organization just doesn't have a tenant, doesn't have ADFS, doesn't have a directory of their own. It's a collection of people. Oh yes, I've got this marketing firm, and I've got a Microsoft account, and she's got a Gmail account, and they've got who knows what they have over there. But we're all still a firm. We don't have a directory, but we have identities. But we want to be treated as an organization. The fact we don't have a tenant shouldn't mean that we're not able to be part of the B2B story as well. So we've already started expanding out in this area. You've probably seen recently we've added support for Gmail users, people with consumer identities to come in and be invited into an Azure AD tenant, just like we've already done in the past with Microsoft accounts. Now, in addition to these additional identity providers that Elizabeth is going to be talking about on Friday, we also have a few other features that have helped customers to provide more controls over the process of users coming in and getting access to resources. The first one is terms of use. Some of you may have already heard it or seen it at our session last year. Terms of use fits into the conditional access policy flow to say, when a user is on their way to an application and they're in the process of signing in, let's intercept that and put a slight pause in their flow. CA can do things like call out to Duo or other MFA providers. It can also put up a terms of use for a user to say, before you go any further, I just want to stop you right here and make sure you're aware of this. Now, some people might click through, but again, that's human nature. The important thing is you then have a record. This user on this date saw these terms before they did in the application. So if there's ever any kind of legal challenges about, well, did they know at the time what they were doing before they got at the application or saw that customer data, you now have the record. So people aren't coming and bugging you in IT saying, how did you let that happen? Access reviews. Now, we've talked about access reviews last year as well. That feature went generally available for groups and apps. It's a really important feature because it helps to reduce the risk that people's access just stays on indefinitely over time. Because think about how people get access to a lot of organizations. You call up help desk. Please add me to the group. Okay, says help desk, we added you to the group. Great, you're now in that group forever. I'm in a lot of groups at Microsoft. I've only been there 10 years. Most of those groups, I have no idea why I'm still in those groups. But, well, why bother getting out? No risk to me, or is it? I don't know. I lose track over time. So one thing we want to do is we want to give more visibility. The fact that someone had access, maybe at a point in time, a year ago, 5 years ago, they had a legitimate need to be in a group, to gain access to an application, that was great. They got that access. But do they still need it? Let's ask someone. Let's ask the users themselves. Let's ask the group owner. Let's ask the applications owner. Do these users still need access? And be able to give them kind of a line item veto. Yeah, these people still need access except that guy. He doesn't need access anymore. Take him out. Just run that process every quarter, every year. Start reducing down the number of people who have access. Because people don't want to just have all these access rights accumulate over time. It creates risk and exposure to the organization. The final thing that's new in the access and identity lifecycle part here for business partners, suppliers, and guests is what we showed briefly in Joy's session yesterday. Who came to Joy's session? Oh, well, if you didn't, you're in for a surprise because you didn't see it. If you did go to Joy's session, stay here. We're going to go even deeper than what we showed during that session. So let me switch over and hit the magic button and do a demonstration. Hello. I'm going to switch to a different persona. I'm going to be Megan Bowen, and I work for a small marketing firm. My firm has been tasked to work with Contoso on preparing a new marketing launch of something, whatever Contosos do these days. So, in the traditional world of B2B, I would sit here waiting, hoping that someone at Contoso would invite me so that then I could get my work done. Maybe they won't find out about me, and maybe I'll get sitting here hoping, someone please invite me, bring me to the tenant. How do we make it possible for users to get access they need at the time they need it? So one of the new things we're adding is the ability for people to request access, and not just in their own tenant. You've seen self-service group management or application access within a tenant for people who already are in your directory. What about people who aren't even in your directory at all yet? Here's a scenario. So let's say Megan here gets an email from this weird Mark guy saying, hey, here's the link. We know you're working on this marketing launch. Click here, it'll give you the access you need. So you click here, and to save time, I'll just click over here. And you see this new screen. So this is what we showed in Joy's demo before, which is how people can get access. So you see up here, we've switched tenants. We're now working here in the context of Contoso. This is Contoso's marketing launch, and they've given access to Megan up here to go and request it. So I can go and put in my justification. I can put in the period, like I'm only working on it this week or that however long. I don't have to set that. And then what happens, I'll not click it right now, is assuming it's approved and validated, and that's fine, she'll then have access. Great. So what does it look like when you have access? Well, what you'll see is here, I'm still Megan, and I've gotten a group, SG Sales and Marketing. Well, fortunately, that name is somewhat recognizable, so I know what it's talking about. It's something about marketing. And I also have an Azure AD user account. Now, users themselves may not care what that means, but for those of you out there in IT, this is important. This is how we're saying you can track then the life cycle of someone coming in and requesting access, and as part of getting access, we'll give them the accounts that they need in order to use that access. So if they needed to be in a security group in your organization, and they're not in your directory already, well, then we better get an account for them so that they can be in that security group. So we're going and creating on the back end the account for the user when they come in and are able to have access. So once you're in as an end user, you're in this group, you can do whatever you want to with groups, and then all the other Azure AD features, as normal, come into play here. So here as an end user, I'm Megan, but I'm operating here in the Contoso tenant, and I can see all the various apps. So probably that security group was controlling access to a bunch of marketing-themed applications like Box, LinkedIn, Salesforce, and Twitter. I can see the groups I'm in, access reviews, that's a teaser for later. And so look, here I am, I'm in the security group along with some other dynamic groups. Okay, that was kind of fun. So you didn't just come here to see that though, because that's like, yeah, someone could have just whipped that up in PowerPoint. How does it actually work, you're going to ask me. So let's switch over and show how it actually works. So Azure Active Directory, hopefully most of you have seen this before. And so the new thing that we're working on right now is this notion of entitlement management. So entitlement management is how we're going to provide that end user self-service, request access, and get an account. And before I go into that part, let me give you a few quick concepts that we're working on here. The first one is delegation. One thing we've heard when talking to IT is IT folks typically don't get involved, or if they do, they don't want to get involved in setting up cross-organization collaboration. For one thing, they probably don't know which companies are on the good list of people we want to work with and which are on the bad list at any given point in time. That's something that marketing knows. Marketing knows the marketing contractors. Sales knows the sales rep. Finance knows your financial service providers, your auditors, and so on. IT is like, I don't want to have to be in there having people telling me, give this guest user access, take this guest user access away. I want to get that out of IT entirely. So this catalog notion is how can we start delegating away groups of access? Now, you don't want to go take a random person in marketing and make them a GA, because that could be dangerous if that person inadvertently overshares. Maybe they picked the wrong application. So what you can do with this catalog concept is say, which of my resources in my organization make sense to delegate? Maybe there's some things that are too sensitive. I don't want end users messing with like privileged directory roles or the group about controlling access to board materials. But marketing and sales stuff, yeah, I want to get that out of IT's hands. I want to give that away. So within this notion of the entitlement catalog, you can then have entitlements. So we can delegate to someone in marketing to say, here's how I want to manage access across my marketing resources. Now, what are those resources? Those resources are whatever kinds of things that marketing folk would want to deal with. Groups, security groups, office groups, cloud applications, SaaS apps like Marketo here, on-premises applications, SharePoint online sites, all those things could be the resources that then marketing has control over. The second part then here is the entitlement is how do we present that in a way that makes sense to end users? Oftentimes, access rights have been set up for the convenience of IT. When I ran directories, I would create security groups with names that made perfect sense to me, but didn't often make sense to the end user. They had weird things in it, like domains and OU structures and things that people didn't know. What does this group even mean? How do I know I want to be in this group or not? So with this notion here of entitlements, we can give things friendlier labels, like marketing launch rather than security group. And we can then set up the permissions for what rights do you get with this. So of all those resources, let's say here's the permission we saw earlier that Megan, when she came in and requested to be part of the marketing launch, she got into the security group automatically. Okay, how did that happen? So the way we do that is with these policies. The policies allow you to determine how people can request access to these different entitlements. How do people go and get access across all these different resources? So we have a couple of ways in which we can do that. So what we have that we're working on right now are these request-based policies. You can say people that are in a group, well, that really only works for people already in your organization. But what about people outside your organization? So one of the new concepts we're working on here is this notion of a partner. The partner is just simply referring to an organization that's not your organization. So here we see that there's another Contoso out there. Wow, popular company, maybe it's a subsidiary. And 4 others. So that marketing firm is able to then, they're one of these, can come in and request this entitlement. Anyone from that organization can go make that request, and if approved, they get access, they get into that security group. Now, that's great from a productivity perspective. Random people out there on the internet can now request access. But I'm sure you'll probably say from a security perspective, wow, won't that just lead to a proliferation of accounts of random people and all these different companies coming in and getting into my well-maintained directory and just like clogging it up with all these groups? Well, we have controls for that. So here's the part that people have been waiting for. How do we start limiting their access? How do we say that this access is not permanently there? You don't keep people around indefinitely, but you can start removing access over time. So you could say, for example, that access should go away on a particular date. The marketing launch is set for December 31st. Great. On that date, take the access away. Or to say, let's give people, I don't know, 90 days? 90 days seems a good time. Give them 90 days, and if they need to, they can request, again, they can keep extending their access. But if they don't do anything, that 90 days comes and goes, then their access is taken away. And if they came in, if Megan came in, requested that marketing launch entitlement, and that entitlement expires, then not only is her group membership taken away, but her guest account is blocked from sign-in, and then will ultimately be removed from your tenant as well. So you're not going to have a proliferation of guests coming in and getting into your tenant and just sitting in there indefinitely. You now can start doing a life cycle when we have this feature out to say everything is time limited. Access is time limited, accounts are time limited as well, so that people aren't sitting there not knowing whether you need access anymore or not. Making sense so far? Okay. So with this, we can then start to provide more delegation and more control over access for these business guests. Now I'm going to show in the next demo some other things we can do with access beyond just B2B guests. But first, let's go back and show some more of what we have for controls for identity and access.
Did that make sense to you guys? Right. So that's the first part. So as Mark showed, he showed some capabilities that already exist in Azure AD, but showed a whole bunch of new ones around the lifecycle, entitlements, the policies, and that request process for granting people access to resources. So we talk about these access rights, and Mark gave some examples around automation, manual automation. How do you do that, right? How do you decide when to do automation versus when to do a manual process, right? And what if the users don't know their rights? Or who is in the organization should be the one actually figuring out and saying, yes, I know what this person is going to do. This person is on the list of people that I expect to come in and give them access to resources. And how do you clean those resources up, right? We hear this question all the time. And so we've now provided a sort of auto deprovisioning of the accounts capabilities like Mark showed. But there's more that in Azure Active Directory we are going to provide to help you really manage and control the access over time. Not just the one-time thing, but over time through that next contract, that next job role. How do you manage it, right? So you have to think of it as this broader life cycle. We show this nice picture of ensuring people have access, right? First thing is dynamic groups. You can use dynamic groups and the work that Mark showed around entitlements to automate that life cycle, right? You can have groups of people, have the policy apply to them, and automatically provision their access. You can have the dynamic groups act like birthright entitlements, that the first time they come in from HR, they have some attributes. You can then use them to give them initial access, and then after that, they go request access. The thing that starts coming into play is how do you make sure that when those users have access, how do they get provisioned automatically into those resources? Mark showed a new way of how you do that provisioning. And all the provisioning to third-party apps and SaaS apps are all through the SCIM protocol. So we have SCIM integration, Azure Active Directory, to enable that provisioning. But you need to be able to monitor that access. We talked about that earlier. We need to be able to review people's access on an ongoing basis. That's where access reviews comes in, right? So recently, we added the capabilities to be able to do recurring access reviews. You can pick a group or members of a group or applications and set policies to say, every 3 months, do a review, group owners review to make sure that users that are in the groups should still have access. Every 1 year, maybe you do that access review. In the groups capability in Azure Active Directory, we now have auto expiration of office groups. How many of you have tried that, the office group? Very few, right? For those of you that haven't tried it, you need to go try that out. So you can look at the combination of the auto expiration of office groups together with the access reviews to really govern that life cycle. You can set a policy for maybe 6 months, they auto expire, but then you can have a quarterly review of the members. If the user extended, you've reduced the access or the number of people that are in that group, you've reduced your risk, and you would have the audit reports in Azure Active Directory to be able to show you what happened, how the users got in, how they got removed, etc. The other thing that we talk about is you need to be able to then enforce that access, right? Most of you are using, federated sign-in, capable like ADFS, etc., to grant people access. But conditional access is a super powerful tool to manage, determine where people are coming from and under what conditions they should get access. We talked about the terms of use. How do you then make sure they know the policies? The other thing that you should do that Azure AD provides is a combination of conditional access and access reviews. How many of you have exception lists for your conditional access rules? Very few. Who has no exceptions to their conditional access rules?
Who didn't raise their hand on the first time because they were embarrassed to say that they've accepted some of their senior executives from their CA policy?
Right. So how do you manage these exception lists? Manually, right? So one of the things that you can actually do, and we just publish guidance on it, is you can use groups to manage those exception lists and run access reviews and set the approval of the exception list to whoever the business decision maker in the organization is. So now you have a trackable, auditable way around how people got on the exception list. You have an access review that on a quarterly or monthly basis, you are reviewing the access and you're having the record that Joe said that person should be on the exception list. So when the auditor comes around and asks you, why is this person exempted from that list? You can pull up that report. You have the proof point around why that exception list is there. And over time, the goal is that the exception list gets to 0 because you no longer have to manage that list. Now it's not an IT problem. You've actually enabled the business users or the people that want an exception to manage that exception, and you have the visibility to go pass your audit test, right? Also, Azure Active Directory recently has added integration with Azure Monitor and Log Analytics so that you can actually mine the data around activity, export it to your SIEM tools to be able to then have that visibility that we talked about earlier. So those are the things that we believe are key to making sure you can really manage the access on an ongoing basis, right? Who wants to see a demo? All right, demos. So let's see some more capabilities. Mark will walk through some additional capabilities beyond what we showed around helping you actually really manage that life cycle at a deeper level.
Okay, thanks a lot. So let's talk a little bit more about these policies. So the first time, went through the policies pretty quickly because it was all new and exciting and shiny. And now that you've been listening to Joe, the questions have started to form. Wait a second, what did he show again? Was that us? What kind of policy was that? So let's go over and go a little bit deeper into some of the kinds of policies that we can configure for users. So familiar looking experience, my access. So this is how we're evolving the access panel going forward for both end users as well, or your own end users as well as those from business partners. So this will have the kinds of things you're familiar with today, app launching, groups, access reviews, and then this ability to request access. So here, we also have the ability for users to go and request access to resources. Again, they're able to do the same kind of experience here. I'm just now acting as a user that's already in the organization, an employee, rather than a business guest. So again, let's look at how you've got these experiences set up on the back end. So again, we have this notion of catalogs. So before we showed this marketing thing working with outside marketing, we also then have another catalog here that I'm going to show for sales. So here within sales, we have some resources. Let's see what we have here for resources. So we've got Salesforce, unsurprisingly, and that same old security group. Okay, so I guess sales and marketing are sharing a group. That's interesting. And then we have an entitlement. So what's this entitlement for? Salespeople have created this entitlement to allow other people in the organization, as well as sales reps, to get access to sales stuff. Sounds great. So how does that work? So let's take a look now at this entitlement. What is it giving access to? Well, it's giving access to those sales resources, gives access to the security group, and it puts people into the standard user role of Salesforce. So that probably makes them just ordinary salespeople. You can, of course, have different roles for different people asking. So if you have some people that are read-only, some people are administrator, they can all end up in whatever role makes sense for the access they're going to get. And then we have the policies. So here we've got, let's see, 2 policies. So first policy is kind of like the one we looked at before, outside sales reps. So this is sales reps from other organizations, other people that are coming in and selling Contoso's, whatever it is they make. Looks like some people have already gotten access that way. And then we have here a policy for existing users that want to help close deals. That was that UI that I showed a minute ago for an employee being able to request access. Same kind of experience, no one's requested that yet. So let's take a look at these policies first. So let's pick on, let's do this one. It's existing users in my organization. So how can I set that up? So just as we've done before, I can select who is able to request this policy. So I can specify it based on a group. Maybe you don't want to start with rolling this out to your whole organization and say, well, this is kind of exciting and new stuff, and it would terrify some of my end users. So I'm going to do a pilot first with just one part of my organization, just so I can get familiar with it. So you can change which group of people are even allowed to go in and make these requests. Or you can do people from other organizations, the partners we talked about before. But then we have the approval part as well. And again, this is important. And this you can apply regardless of people are coming in from another organization or from your own organization. You can set up who the approvers are going to be for users requesting access to this entitlement. And again, we have, looks like our emergency admin in case the main admin is unable to do their job, and one more, so probably a delegated end users doing the approval process. And again, this is part of a catalog up here for sales, so that means it's someone over in sales who's able to set this up. They can go and define this all themselves, pick who their approvers are going to be for their entitlements without needing to bother anyone in IT for this. They can take full responsibility for their groups, their applications, without needing to come in, open service tickets, wait for things to happen. They can decide who they want, and they can change it whenever they need to. So if they want to change the policy, they want to change how long access is for, they want to allow people to extend it or not, that's all under their control. Why would I create a policy with an automatic deny option? Comes a question from the back of the room. That is a great question. So we saw here that we had these different policies, and thanks for setting up that question, because what we saw here when we're looking at things, something I kind of glossed over briefly until just now, all identities not in another policy. So let's say, maybe it's not a sales example, maybe you want to say, I want to put out RFPs. I want people to bid on supplying spare parts to Contoso in the future. And I want anyone to request. Except, I've got this certain list of people who aren't allowed to bid. They're denied the ability to bid. Maybe they're on some government watch list. Maybe we've just been burned by them in the past. Maybe they're competitors. I don't want them coming in and requesting access. So the reason we'd have an automatic deny policy is then you can say, well, I want to have a policy for everyone. All the tenants can come in and request and go through approvals. But from this set of individuals, this set of group members, other tenants, other organizations, I just know they're not going to get access. So I can stop it right there and say, no, sorry. I don't want to have to send that to an approver. I don't want the approver to have to say, Jeff from Amazon, deny. Like, we can just cut it off before it even gets to the approver. That help? Great. So that's how we can then control who has access. And really what we're looking at here is ways that we can increasingly make better experiences for the end users. Both the people who can request, they can come in and see the experience we saw earlier, as well as the experience for the people to do the approving part. So here we can see, when we're looking at those requests, that Debashis, are you in the room today? He's over there. And looks like he requested access for sales, and let's see what that experience would look like. So here's what it would look like then to that approver. So Microsoft isn't someone who Contoso is blocking, and looks like Debashis wants to help close some sales deals for Contoso, so he's gone and requested access. So here's what the approver would see. They get an email from the service telling them there's a request pending approval. They'd come in, they'd see this, they can view the details, they can see what does he want to have access to. Spinning. There we go. He wants the good leads. Sorry, you don't get the good leads. So that was pretty mean. Okay, so then that request will go away, and hopefully he can try again later when I'm feeling in a better mood about demos. Now let's show some people who actually did get access earlier. So here's Adele and Alex. So they made requests earlier. And of course, the question that people always ask me, they stop me in the street and say, Mark, how long did it take you to grow the beard? And how do I get visibility into how people got access if they got access like months ago? Because my audit log is like 90 days and I kind of lost track of that. Can I go back and see like who approved, where did they request from, what was the justification? So yes, we provided the ability to export the grant information so you can go get a shiny CSV file. Yeah, failed to download. Oh well, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll get a shiny CSV file, or whenever we make this public, that you can then take, and it'll have all the information that the auditors are expecting to see. Who made this request? Where did they come from? What was their organization? What was the justification? Who approved? What was the approver's justification for that? So then you have that trail. And important stuff like, when is their access going to end? So that you know that all these things, again, are time limited, that people just don't keep access in the system indefinitely. So sounding good so far? So everything we talked about before, again, this is building on top of things we already have in Azure AD. So this is how governance is then providing additional experiences. So the request experience we saw before for end users inside your organization, outside for approvers to be able to come in. Looks like they already denied, so I don't have anything more to do. And then we rely upon the existing Azure Active Directory foundation. So if you already have, for example, conditional access policies set up for your applications, this works in conjunction with that. So we assign the users to the applications or put the users into the appropriate groups so they can get access to the applications, and then the CA policies then come into play. So if the user is coming in as a new guest and you set a CA policy for guest, then as soon as the user comes in and gets approved, the next time they get access, or the next time they try to do anything, after they've been approved as a new guest, they'll see your CA policy, they'll be required to do MFA or see the terms of use. So we set up here a terms of use for them. Again, those policies will apply also for application access as well. So if you say, I want to have a terms of use just for a particular set of users, just for a particular application, you can set that up. You can configure all the different features of CA. And as Joe mentioned before, you can also use the features that we have today, like access reviews. So if I've got specific users that I am including, so I can say, all guest users, but if I were to go here and say, well, maybe I want to exclude the board members or someone, I can put them into a group, use the access review so that there's some oversight. It's not that someone will come and put a finding on me as the IT person. You made an exception for someone and they no longer needed it. Ha ha ha, finding for you. So no, I've delegated it to some business decision maker. There's a review that can happen every quarter, however often you need, where someone is going and looking at your exception list for your CA policy and ensuring that those people really legitimately have an exception. And as we add more capabilities to Azure AD for outbound user provisioning, as we enhance the work we're doing today with things like SCIM and Microsoft Graph, connect to more applications as well as on-premises, again, this experience will just get richer and richer with the additional applications that will be available. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Joe. Click.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So I'm really excited by some of these new capabilities because they start addressing a lot of the concerns around traceability and giving people access to resources or account creation in a controlled manner that we've been hearing about. And so we're really excited about this. I want to shift gears a little bit, right? And earlier I talked about this challenge of privilege access and admin rights. In the traditional governance world, we don't think of those as separate. We think of them as separate. We don't think that's part of the life cycle, or we think of it as this different thing that you need to go do, and it's not a governance problem. But we strongly believe it's a big governance problem. So let's look at a scenario where Alex, my boss, hired Mark and I to go work on something. We are good. We are not admins. We don't have a lot of privileges or permissions to go delete users or any of that stuff, right? So kind of cool. We can do stuff. But as soon as we get admin rights or we get put in an admin role, what is the risk? Who can tell me what the risk of this user is? If you look at the X and Y axis. You did some math. I remember a little bit of my math, right? The risk to the organization is really a function of the number of permissions times time, right? You could say that's the power that they have. But do you really want admins to have that power or that risk to your organization, right? So in Azure Active Directory, the big thing that we believe is that you need to remove permanent standing admins, right? You should not have permanent standing admins. And we enable that capability through Azure AD Privilege Identity Management, right? When you remove that standard admin access, now your risk profile, instead of that big area in the rectangle, is only reduced to the time that those users have the permissions. They are normal users. When they need permission, they get elevated after being challenged with MFA. They get a permission for a fixed period of time, and those permissions get reduced. This way, you have no permanent standing access, and you're securing your users. Now, that's not the only thing that we believe you need to do for your privileged admins, right? We've created a set of best practices, and it all started with baseline multi-factor authentication. You can use our MFA, you can integrate with other third-party MFAs that we provide, but you need to have multi-factor authentication. From the sessions today, you heard about passwordless and how you can use the Authenticator app Those are things that you need to make sure, at a minimum, your admins always verify the identity before they go do any task, right? The other thing that we talk about, and we also have a best practice paper on, is how do you manage or govern your emergency accounts? Who has break glass accounts? Everyone? Is it tied to a phone for MFA? Who is that phone? Who does that phone belong to? It sits on a table, okay? Is it a smartphone? Do you update that phone software regularly so that you have the latest authenticator app or whatever it is on that device, right? Often people will say we have break glass accounts, but guess what happens? It's sitting in a safe somewhere, maybe tied to whoever set it as personal phone. Guess what happens? When there's that break glass problem, it doesn't work. So make sure that your emergency accounts are protected. You have, MFA set on those. You have a policy like this gentleman here around, making sure that that phone number or device is not tied to an individual admin, so that when the emergency happens, you can go recover. We recently just added admin capabilities to conditional access, that you can target conditional access policies to people in admin roles. So that combined with the PIM, Privileged Identity Management capabilities, you can then ensure that users or admins can only work from offices that you know about. For example, maybe Florida, you don't have an office in Florida. You're here this week, maybe you shouldn't be able to work from here through conditional access. You can set that up if you want to, right? Target conditional access policies at admins is a new thing that we added. And then a little used feature, or little known feature in Azure AD PIM is alerting, right? Maybe you have some vendors working on enabling teams or some Office 365 project. They go create admin roles in that portal. There's powerful alerting in the Privileged Identity Manager product that will alert you to whenever roles get created. It will alert you where the role get created, who created that role. There was a customer we were working with where they had a vendor working on a project, and they started getting these alerts about additional accounts, global admins being created. And like, what's the issue? When they went and investigated, they found that the vendor's account actually had been compromised and different admin GAs were being created, so they had to go shut down that admin account. If they hadn't had that alert come up right away, then what would have happened was these GAs would have been created, and they could have then created additional people, and then you have a really insecure environment. So that's something that we need to do. We've also added a lot of new APIs through MS Graph to make sure that for those of you that are doing automation, that you can actually integrate this privileged identity management capabilities into your automation workflow. And it's not only for, Azure Active Directory roles. This also works for all Azure resource roles, right? Office 365 PAM, we just recently enabled the same kind of capability for Office 365 called Privileged Access Management to start managing the tasks in Exchange Online Office 365. And all these privileged identity management capabilities are part of the secure score, the identity secure score. So when you go there, all the baseline policies and best practices that we recommend, once you enable them, your identity score will increase, your secure score will increase, because these admin rights are super critical.
You pull this off by using emergency access accounts, and they use to initiate the whole thing, then you seal them off. How do you want to handle that? There has to be some bootstrapping.
Yeah. So there's a question about the emergency access accounts. So do you use those accounts for bootstrapping? So yes, so one of the things that we've seen from a number of customers is they'll often start, or maybe they've already started a while ago, let's say an Office 365, an Exchange to Exchange Online migration project. And perhaps the first administrator for Azure AD was someone working on the Exchange to Exchange Online migration, maybe someone working on the mail service. Or for many of our customers, it was actually a vendor who came in and did the migration for them is the initial administrator for that organization. But over time, the number of services, both Microsoft and third parties that are integrating with Azure AD has been growing. And what we see in large organizations is each time there's another service, some other part of the IT empire they say, well, we also need to be an administrator. So maybe you started with just Exchange Online, and you had one person as your global admin, and they kind of ran the mail system, but they also ran the directory in their spare time. But then you added Intune, and then someone who's dealing with devices and computers and PCs said, well, I need to be an admin as well. So the admin set grows. Eventually you get to the point of saying, how do we make sure we don't have any one key person? How do we make sure that if there is an emergency, there's the ability to be a global administrator? So what we typically see is after the numbers of, I would say, human administrators have grown, and then you say, I want to take those human administrators and reduce their privileges so that they don't have access. I want to make sure there's always one way that I can, in an emergency, come back in. And so it's that point in time that we usually see, maybe it's a year or two after the deployments have started, that the organization will then follow the best practice guidance, create one, two, a couple emergency break glass accounts, and then follow an MFA procedure. Some of our customers tie it to a smart card. They use ADFS, and they have smart cards for those accounts in the safe on the wall with the big red tape saying, only open in emergency. Someone breaks open the tape, pulls out the smart card, uses that for authentication. Now that, of course, is a fairly sophisticated customer to have ADFS and smart cards. Others are using the MFA approach, but they're using a common phone, or with some of these newer MFA capabilities that we're doing in partnerships with CA, they're using these smaller physical tokens for doing the authentication for the emergency account. But people are still doing their normal, I would say, day-to-day or week-to-week administrative accounts with either their own account or often an alternate account for their individual. So these are only in the exceptional case that that person is just not available.
Yeah, and just to add, there's a session actually tomorrow around protecting your kingdom, where one of the guys on our team is going to talk about it with another customer that has actually implemented privileged identity management. So the customer will actually talk about how they implemented it and what are the challenges they went through and what works, what does not work. So that'll be a good session to attend tomorrow afternoon. So, sorry, can you repeat the question? Yeah, so we think of PIM as part of the governance solution in Azure Active Directory, right? So in Azure Active Directory, we don't think of identity governance as a separate feature. We think of that as a set of end-to-end features that work together to provide you that capability. Yep. Yep.
It's almost like you've read our mind.
Yeah.
Yes. So one way to think about it in terms of what do I use the governance features for? We've used PIM, Azure AD PIM, as an incubation for a number of these techniques. So you might say, Mark, you're talking about this time-limited access and expiration dates. That's old news. You launched that a year ago in PIM. Right. We did that in PIM in order to vet out the concept. Oh, yes, for my Azure resources, I could set a time limit for a contractor, maybe a business guest coming in, getting access to an Azure site for a launch, and say that's limited to 90 days. After that time, their access to Azure goes away because maybe they're on some other contract where I don't want them messing with my production VMs anymore. And we love that concept so much, we say, well, now how do we generalize that? Something we've already done with PIM for the administrative roles, we think is applicable more generally to people coming in getting access to marketing and other non-administrative stuff. So PIM is definitely part of the story. And as you see these things evolve over time, I think the boundaries of, well, there's PIM and there's not PIM will continue to soften. The same capabilities are underlying both the experiences, and we see over time, as organizations do more delegation outside of core IT, there'll be more circumstances where someone who doesn't think of themselves as a IT person is in fact a administrator of maybe an application or some other sensitive data, or is controlling a data protection policy that looks administratively, but they're using all these same features that we've talked about here before.
Yeah. So,
there's another question?
Let's hold the questions because there are a few things we want to go through quickly, and we'll come back to the questions.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
So we want to show the quick demo
so
of some of these capabilities.
let's do the last demo, and then we can have some time for questions. So let's start with our nightmare scenario, a tenant that has far too many permanent global administrators. Hopefully this does not look familiar to you. Okay, but one thing that, if this doesn't look familiar to you, is you should definitely take a look at. One thing we've added to Azure Active Directory, let's see here on the left, is the roles of administrators. So if you haven't been to roles of administrators, you don't need PIM for this. You should definitely go check that out. And just make sure you know who your administrators are, and to see all these shiny new roles we've been adding to the directory based on people coming up to myself, Steve Lieberman, Vince Smith at previous events saying, wow, Teams is so powerful. I wish I didn't have to manage it. So these kinds of roles here help to make that possible. So definitely check this out. Go see the session on PIM tomorrow. Now, what can I do with this? So let's say I've got too many global administrators. Okay, usual thing I want to do here is go in and start taking them out, maybe doing some cleanup here. I'd also probably want to start doing some access reviews. So I can go into PIM, and this is again a feature you've seen probably before in the past, is go and create an access review of people in a directory role. So that's been a feature we've had for a while, but we've enhanced that feature to be able to do access reviews that are recurring for administrative roles. We can do recommendations. We can automatically update the resources. So a lot of things that we had in access reviews in groups and apps are also available for privileged roles in Azure Active Directory, as well as roles in Azure as well. Now, for those of you who are saying, what's an access review again? Access reviews, in addition to PIM, are also applicable for reviewing members of a group, people assigned to an application. So you can review any group, an office group, a security group you created in the cloud, security group created from on-premises. Any of those, you can decide who you want to be the reviewer. One thing that we've heard as feedback from the last time we did this that people wanted to use the access reviews for is actually cleaning up guests. So one of the new things that is going to be coming in Azure Active Directory pretty soon is when I'm going and creating, let's say, a review of guests, like I've got too many guests here, and I want to start cleaning them up. So I can go pick a group. Maybe I've got a group of guests, and I can pick the reviewers. Maybe I can have the guests themselves do the review. Then, when the review completes, I'll be able to take the user out. So you'll soon see the features lighting up in access reviews, so I can start blocking users from signing in to my tenant if they didn't complete the review, if the sponsor said they don't need access anymore, take them out, as well as remove the guests entirely. So even if you've already got guests, even if you say, well, we don't have any of this entitlement stuff, it's all very complex. I guess I have too many guests today, you'll be able to start cleaning up those guest accounts. Wait for applause. Okay, so. All right, stop it. I got to finish my demo. Okay, so last thing. I've been showing way too much Azure Portal stuff because I actually rarely use the Azure Portal myself other than to set up demos. Most of the time, I'm using PowerShell. Who uses PowerShell? Good. Okay, so finally, PowerShell. So if you haven't already tried Graph Explorer, I definitely recommend trying it out. Go to developer.microsoft.com or Graph, because here you can try out all these exciting new APIs we have for these features. What are these APIs, you may ask? So if you haven't been to the section here on the Graph API reference, scroll all the way down to a section called Beta Reference. Scroll even further down to Identity and Access. We've got access reviews, we've got multiple identity providers, we've got privileged identity management, we have all sorts of new APIs we've added in the last few months in order to make automation of these kinds of features I've been showing you much easier. And so everything I'm showing you here is all live stuff that you can do in your own tenant today, not futuristic. So one of the things that I did a blog post on just about a month ago was the Access Reviews API. So if you want to try that out, there's a really simple example of how to do that. And I actually wrote the example in PowerShell. So I didn't have to use Visual Studio or actually write code for a living. I just stole some PowerShell that the Intune team had already did. Let me scroll down to that. And then combine that with using the Graph API. So let me show you the process of how to use these APIs for PIM, for access reviews from PowerShell. So first step, create an application. So this part is pretty easy. You go back to the portal. Here's an application, and then you specify for that, manifest. Okay, don't have to make any changes there. And the settings. And the settings are where you can say what APIs your application is going to need. So you can pick all these different permissions. So I picked some of the permissions here that I want the application to have. Now that I've got my application set up with the right permission, then I can use the sample that I put on the blog post in order to then use Graph API from PowerShell. And so I don't need to wait for the Azure AD PowerShell library to be updated. I can call anything in Graph today. So the script here that I have on the sample is pretty straightforward. There's two parts. The first part up here, scrolling up, is all boilerplate. You don't have to mess with this at all. Just steal it off the blog post. Well, I shouldn't say steal. Reuse it off the blog post. We'll put it on GitHub. It's widely seen. Lots of people are using it. This simply gets your authentication token from ADAL library. You say, I don't have the ADAL library installed. Actually, you do. If you've installed Azure AD PowerShell, this just looks at where your Azure AD PowerShell is located and uses that same library. Then it has an example here of how to use the graph for a few things. So I ran it earlier in the interest of time to go and retrieve my programs. So these are all the places I see down here, those access views I was looking at earlier. I can also use it to go and get my audit information. So I have another example here that I wrote using the Azure Active Directory graph to go and query for users accepting the terms of use. So that example I gave earlier, how do we make sure that people accepted the terms of use when they were on their way to an application? So I can go back and query the audit log and see which users requested at what time and see the policy. I can go and retrieve the terms of use documents themselves, whatever I need, in order to then have visibility into who had access. So this is, again, being able to do it programmatically. We'll be putting out a lot more code samples in PowerShell in the upcoming weeks that shows how to use PowerShell to script these new features as they're coming out. In addition, there are sessions later this week about using the log analytics capabilities as well if you want to do richer analysis than just pulling it back into a PowerShell list.
Thanks, Mark. So as you see, one of the key principles is that we are not only going to try and do the nice UI, but we're going to try and provide all these graph APIs to allow you to integrate whatever the identity governance capabilities that we have into the other systems that we have. We know most of you have something out there that you need to use, and as you move to the cloud, we're going to provide the governance capabilities and then allow you to join and integrate with the other systems that you have, so your previous investments are still valid. So back to the gentleman's question, is Azure AD identity governance? I'll come to you in a second. Is identity governance a separate thing, right? In the demos, we talked about a few things that already existed today, right? The new things that we've added or are adding to make sure Azure AD is a rich governance solution is all these things. We showed the B2B identity provider support that when the user went and requested access, we were able to automatically create accounts for them, set expiration. We showed how you can use access reviews to then be able to then go remove them if they didn't respond to access review or even disable the account. We also talked about the auto expiration, and we showed you how you can set up entitlements and combination of access to resources or any of the third-party applications that are out there. And then we also lastly showed you some of the approval workflow where the machines requested access and a business user denied them or can approve them. So we're adding all these capabilities to Azure Active Directory so that you can count on Azure Active Directory as a governance solution. Now, if you think of the traditional identity governance capabilities, identity lifecycle, entitlement management, access requests. One of the key things that we're doing is to try to start filling in or making sure that Azure Active Directory has all those capabilities in there. But that is not all. We want to extend the power of EMS to include how we can integrate all these other capabilities in the EMS suite, our CASB solution, our data governance solution into the governance. Imagine a world where you have these users, you're using Cloud App Security, and the signals around their usage or what their activity they are doing can be a trigger for an access review or can be a trigger to remove them from a policy. Or when somebody requests access, an admin is going to do an admin role or a job. When they request activation, you can look at a risk policy and say, nah, your risk score is high, I'm going to deny you. Or they may request a global admin where I say, no, based on your activity, you should really be a user administrator, not a global admin. Those are the things that we can bring with the power of Azure Active Directory, working together in AMS Suite and Microsoft 365 to provide governance that's not just limited to identity, but limited across the end-to-end scenarios that you need to be able to enable. So to summarize, we talked about all these lifecycle capabilities, some things you can do today, some of the new things. We talked about access, lifecycle capability to enable productivity beyond the first-time entitlement. We talked about a privileged lifecycle. And all these combined together allow you to get to this governed state of the right access to the right resources by the right people to ensure security and productivity in your enterprise. So before I finish, I heard a clap there. Before I finish, how do you see all these new features, right? We've put a little white paper out there that starts talking about some of these capabilities you can go check out. You can sign up to be considered for some of these upcoming previews that we are working on. Our goal is that in Q1 of FY or calendar year 2019, we'll have all this in public preview so that you guys can try it all out. We are testing it at a few customers. So if you want to be one of the few customers that are helping us shape the features, go sign up for the private preview. We'll look at it, evaluate, and then may add it to the private preview to help us shape the feature. We also have a lot of product team members here at Ignite. Some at the booth, some in this session here. So, stop by, ask questions. And there are quite a few sessions out there that are related that we encourage you to go look at. Now, a gentleman's question. I don't want to forget him. So, yeah. 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 So this is part of the roadmap. We don't publish formal roadmaps beyond more than 6 months or so, because the key thing that we're doing in our engineering process is we work with a few close customers, enable a solution for them, and then keep iterating. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for finding the area.